Okay, good morning. We're from Kirklees College. This is Philippa Firth, who's Head of Teacher Education and Access to HE.
And this is Richard Turner, Award Leader Business and Professional Studies.
We're going to tell you a little bit about the project that we've done. If we could have the next slide, please. Yeah.
Okay.
And it is about, it's the teaching and learning, isn't it? It's about convincing students in an FE environment that HE can be a valid progression route, and that we have an approach that will help them to achieve that.
So the reason we came to this title quite long and thought out, because we started off with a much bigger project to look at students that don't come to HE and don't come to FE either to do HE. So we started to think about a real big picture and then narrowed it down to thinking about where can we concentrate and where can we make a difference. And we think it's in teaching learning assessment.
Our context is that we're in an economically deprived area. We're in a post-industrial area of West Yorkshire, and not very many of our traditional students, our traditional FE students, think about the route. Those that do, as Vicky said, are predominantly BTEC learners, and so we're having to look at strategies, look at ways to engage with them. But just before we go on to that, I'd just like to give you a little bit of context, some of which I'm sure you'll be familiar with. That in the new post-student number control environment, we're now facing significant challenges. Change of government, we've got a new universities minister who actually made a speech last week talking up the idea of the teaching excellence framework. Not quite as traumatic, we hope, as a research excellence framework, but they're looking at giving more autonomy and more academic freedom to teaching at higher education level, which is wonderful. And within that, they're looking at grade point averages, so that when a student gets a qualification, there's going to be points within those grade boundaries that give a potential employer much more of an idea of what that student can actually achieve. So that's our context. Yeah. So the issues and challenges. Here we go. Yeah. We started out thinking about what we might do, and I think you can probably just see the quote at the top of the screen. You can't do everything all at one go, and we gave ourselves a list, didn't we? We want to do this, and this, and we've got 6 months. No, that's not going to happen. So what we did was to start to break it down into what we now think, there's funding available, that we're going to be doing a 3-year project on this subject. But we started out with looking at progression for students who don't fit the normal university mould. And I'm sure you're all familiar with that sort of student. So can we, by using our teaching and learning approach, convince those students that actually there is an option, there is a possibility for them to achieve at university level? We give them a different university experience. Not the one where there's 250 people in a lecture theatre, but one where, as we'll mention shortly, is where there is a community of practice in which we are all involved. Not only involving them in the learning, but getting them to design some of the learning activities as well, where that's possible. I'd just like to mention very quickly 2 case studies. 2 students who finished, completed, achieved with us. They marched very proudly onto the stage in our local town hall on Tuesday of last week with their gowns. Neither of those students were what you would call typical. One was invited to leave school when she was 14, arrived on our FE college door as a bit of a handful. It was always, no, I can't do this. No, I can't do this. But eventually, with the type of teaching and learning approach that we use, she has achieved a foundation degree. She's achieved with a distinction, principal's commendation, and she's got a place to complete an honours degree next year. The other case study, a little bit similar but older, worked in admin, administrative functions, administrative jobs for a number of years, finally decided that she needed some qualifications, was very low on self-confidence. In our learning model, she has achieved. And a little quote that she put at the end of her email to us: thank you for all your support. And you know, sometimes it still makes me do that. Thank you for all your support. If I'd been in a normal university setting, I would have sunk without trace. And for me, that says it all about what we're doing with this project.
So how did we start doing it? Obviously we started working with SUNCETT, and that's been a real help for us for honing down where we wanted to take the research and what we wanted to do further. Richard and I work really closely together, which is linked teacher education to the curriculum, which is what we're trying to do a lot more across the college. So when you do teacher education, it doesn't just stop with your qualification, but also carries on with research. And we've done work with SUNCETT and SUNCETT across the college, trying to encourage that. We start to think about the end game and start to plan what kind of research we wanted to do. And now we really wanted to involve the student in, not just be desk-based. So we did our desk-based research, looking at what we thought the end product might be, but also we talked quite a lot to our students, Richard's students in his classroom. We planned the questions, and we talked about, we really want to think about what it meant, what FE meant in a HE, FE in a HE context really meant. All our students signed the ethical participant sheet, so they all wanted to be there. They all want to see the final study and what we thought, what we found.
The students that we worked with our first and second year foundation degree business and management students, and our level 3 year 2 BTEC extended diploma business students as well. So that was our sample, if you like. That was our working group.
So we started off with the head of department wanted to know. They want to know in college why our students are not progressing with us and why they're going further or why they're not progressing at all. So we started with a bit of secondary research to set us off and give us a real focus. Okay. And so this is what we found really. So why do students decide to stay with us and apply for the foundation degree? I thought cost would be a big thing because it's a fraction of what they pay at university. Actually, that's only 20% of the students. The support from college was 40%, which we think is really quite big, and that's one of the areas we really looked into. But the distance from home also plays a key part, so they're familiar with the college, they're near to home, and can carry on studying there.
So what did we ask them? You'll be able to see this in a little bit more detail on our poster. But we asked them about their learning experiences, and it didn't have to be in college. In fact, we wanted it not to be in college. And some of the responses that we got were quite surprising. It was learning to drive, it was learning to swim, it was struggling to bring up the children. It was completely unrelated educational experiences, but ones that were ultimately extremely valuable, especially for the slightly older students. We also asked them about how they learn, how they deal with feedback, how important feedback is to them, and how they challenge themselves in learning something new. If we put a new concept in front of them, how do they deal with learning that? So those were a range of the questions that we asked. I started out by doing a recorded focus group with a voice recorder on the table and asking them questions. Well, I think you might imagine how that went. One person wouldn't shut up. Everybody else sat and said nothing. So in the end, we had to go for the flip chart approach. So I put a number of flip chart sheets out on the desk with the questions, and I just said, please start here and work your way around. And actually, the responses that we got were something similar to the ones I've just mentioned. But they were quite informative and said quite a lot about what we'd identified in the lit review as well.
I'm going to skip that one. Can you skip this next one?
Yeah.
So the key points that came up from the students, they like the small groups. They don't want a big lecture. They want to be in small groups and learn from a community of practice. They really value the personalised learning experience they felt they got from college, so that one-to-one with the tutor, more time with the tutor than they get at university. Their previous learning experience still form the basis of what they expect at higher education, so the previous learning, the best experience still form what they expect in an FE or an HE environment. They think that the feedback they got in the college they use very extensively to improve their work and further write better and better assignments and pieces of work. And they really like the inclusive teaching style of the tutors, so there are a lot of positive comments on the inclusive teaching style and that community of practice and working together as a team.
So what are we going to do? What do we think we need to do next in the next stage of our project? So we might be applying to do something like this yet again. We need to visit tutor groups at lower levels, probably to get a greater flavour of learning tasks and do activities with them that show them the value of our model. We need to build these soft skills of independence, confidence, ability to self-direct learn, and those things. Being able to confidently go and find a piece of research, because I think, as we've already heard this morning, that's one of the big issues with students, particularly if they come through the BTEC route. We're getting the wind up from the back. We need to have a marketing campaign that actually that develops that argument and look at some of the harder skills.
So the implications for us are time allocation, so time for tutors to go to speak to the level 3 students about progression and the things they want to do. Not just do it, what's your destination and just collect the data, but actually in depth and speaking to students, so proper exit, and possibly much before that, so when they're on the course starting to talk about what they want to do. We really like to involve in our students in this process, so giving them the voice to be able to say what they want and what they wanted to focus on. And
they enjoyed actually being involved in it, which was really good. Because often we say, don't we, right, this is what's doing, this is what we're doing, this is what's happening. And I'm very conscious that I'm being waved at from the back. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much. I think we've got some time for some questions. I'm just conscious about, you mentioned the distance for students to come, because I work in HE now, and I would dispute some of your facts that I think not all university classes are huge. My new programme, I've said 25, and that's all I want in a class. And the university's okayed that, so there are changes going ahead. Right. But I think the distance thing's really important, because we both share teacher education students, one in a college, one in a university, and there is a choice there to do with distance and familiarity. And I don't know if that's the relationship between the college and the local universities, or whether students choose just because it's on the doorstep and it's easy and it's cheaper to get there. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, speaking from teacher education, is we're very near Huddersfield University, within walking distance, and we get students on teacher education that specifically come to us for the familiarity.
Right.
So they might have been on a course, they might already know the tutors on the course, so they want to come because it's familiar. And I think sometimes going through them doors at a big university, no matter what age you are, whether you're 18 or you're 80, can be very daunting. So I think quite often it is familiarity and feeling that you're comfortable where you are.
And are you significantly cheaper than the university for the same course?
We are for teacher education courses.
Yeah, it's the same with you, isn't it? Yeah, half.
Price. Yeah. But we do the DEC, the level 5, but we also do a certificate PGC with the university.
Right.
And we'll let students choose. And usually it is price why they choose.
Sometimes, yeah. Okay, thank you. David?
Thanks. Sort of on the same theme, really. So the most striking result, I thought, was your negative result that you highlighted about how few people cited cost as the kind of driving decision-maker element. And so 2 questions, really. One, how confident are you that your sample is representative? So if you're going to use it as a basis for, marketing and so on. But secondly, can you just say a bit more about what you think is going on there? Because the national narrative focuses an awful lot on cost and the deterrent effect of cost of HE. But then yours is not the first piece of work that's thrown that into question when you actually talk to the learners. So I'm interested in what you think about that.
There's a difference between, I'll let you speak in a minute, Richard. I think there's a real difference between the age of the learner. So I think if you get an 18 to 20s learner, they're not bothered about taking on a loan, because a loan's nothing. They see the long-term picture and they just think they can be able to pay that back, or they might never earn enough to pay it back. So if they do a 24-plus loan, going to university, they won't have to pay that back. I think for your older learners, such like me, I would never take a loan out. I'd rather save, or I'll find somewhere cheaper or a different way of doing it. But that's a bit of a personal thing.
Yeah. I think there's a correlation as well between levels of learning and income. And again, just in the last couple of days, there's been more data that suggests that even though the gap's not as big as it used to be, there's still a significant difference. A graduate is likely to be earning £9,000 to £11,000 a year more than somebody who's a non-graduate. So I think from all the discussions we've had with our students, cost is not an issue. Okay,
this is a small sample.
Yeah, it is.
Right, it's a
Agreed.
small sample
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
group of students, so
We're
I think
talking
we'd probably look at it in bigger before we'd make that assertion.
about 50 altogether. So it's a relatively... Okay, it's not tiny, but it's... You're right to say that is it representative?
And it's all in one, it's in business.
It's in one place.
It's not across the whole college.
Yeah. Perhaps if I'd not been talking to my own students, maybe the answers might have been different. Good question. I don't know. Perhaps I should have got somebody else to ask, do those focus groups. I don't know. We'll find out next year, hopefully.
Thank you for that. I'm just interested in the learner voice element of it, and obviously that you found that kind of quite valuable. Is that something that you're going to kind of encourage people across the college to do? Was it something that the college was doing already in terms of engaging learners? Because obviously we know about kind of cuts to career services and things like that, but actually asking learners and encouraging them to think how they might want to progress.
We do ask learners, and we've got quite a big student voice across college that's led by quality, but not, I think, specifically in terms of research. I think students really like to be part of the future and have that impact on research. We're working with SUNCETT as well, so we've got a whole practitioner led, we've got about 12 members of staff doing action research projects with their students this academic year, and it's been phenomenal.
And we do have, in the college, we have a student consultative committee for HE students who meet with staff. Again, research hasn't come up there, so but maybe that's a good point. Maybe it's something that we could develop. Maybe try and engage them in the online discussion that the staff have.
I think they like to see that teachers are still learning. You know, we're asking questions, we're still learning, it's constant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.